Welcome to part 5 of this Football Manager 2018 experiment involving the Bryan brothers. Once again, thank you for the support on this experiment series. I'm really pleased that you guys have enjoyed it. And of course, we've still got quite a long way to go because the players are only 27 years old. We're going to go 4 seasons in total in this part 5 today just to get through a bit quicker. So we're going to go up until they are aged 30. And as you can see, Bryan has caught up with Trevor Bryan. He's managed to get to 200 current ability, the second Bryan brother to reach 200. Nigel Bryan is on 199, but really well done to Ralph Bryan for accelerating up to 198, which is fantastic. He's surely the world's best goalkeeper in terms of current ability. He might not have managed to win Goalkeeper of the Year yet. We'll have to have a look at that. Trevor Bryan, 108 goals in 118 games for USA. I don't know who the top goal scorer ever is for USA, but perhaps he's beaten that record already. Jim Curtin is currently manager of USA. They're second in the world rankings. Of course, they won the World Cup in 2026, remember. We'll just have a quick look to see if they've won anything else recently. Confederations Cup, that hasn't been... Oh, third place. Oh, that was 2021, though. So they might take part in the next... or they should take part in the next Confederations Cup because they won the World Cup, of course. They won the Olympics in 2020, you'll remember. Here's the Gold Cups. They did win that in 2027. They won that last year, finally winning it for the first time in 10 years. Let's just have a look to see how that final finished. So they beat Mexico 5-0 in the final. And Trevor Bryan scored a penalty. None of the other Bryan brothers managed to score, but Ralph Bryan in goal, Nigel Bryan in defence with an 8.5, 7.9 for Ralph Bryan, Bryan with a 9.1, and Trevor Bryan with a goal and an 8.2 performance. But this guy was man of the match, Andrew Joy, who looks like a very good player. I don't know whether the Bryan brothers have inspired America to play football, soccer. They must do. I mean, if this was real life, if you had 4 quadruplets appearing for the same national team and being incredible at European clubs, then surely that would inspire a generation of players, youngsters, to get involved in the game. If no one did get involved after seeing these 4 brothers and also winning the World Cup, then there's no hope for soccer in USA, is there? Because you can't not be inspired by these 4 guys. Anyway, it's been a marvellous story for the Bryan brothers, winning multiple things. Let's just go back to the shortlist. You can see Trevor Bryan this year, 40 goals. In fact, I wanted to look up the records. That's why I clicked on USA. But yes, he is the all-time top goal scorer with 108 goals. But the most capped player is going to be... Who's it going to be? Where is it? There we go. Michael Bradley, 177. Will we see the Bryan brothers retire before they reach that? It's possible, because I've noticed on Football Manager over the years, quite often players, like the real top quality players, they retire sort of around about the age of 30, 31, possibly even 29, because they get 100 caps so early on. And they've won a World Cup, and I guess in 2 years' time, if they don't win that World Cup, then maybe that's their last chance. Although they'll still be relatively young in 2 years' time. So they could keep playing for a long, long time if they really wanted to. All the Bryan brothers feature on the top players, although Pulisic is ahead of Ralph Bryan, apparently. Although I can't imagine his current ability is quite as high as Ralph Bryan's, because remember, Ralph Bryan is up to 198 now. So let's look at the players then. Trevor Bryan, 40 goals this season, still playing for Chelsea, managed to win the Ballon d'Or, remember. Then his brother Brian managed to win it last year. 8.07 average rating. Exceptional once again. And let's have a look. He did lead them to another Premier League title, his 3rd in total. They completely destroyed Manchester United and Man City. West Ham finishing up in 4th place. Trevor Bryan, top goal scorer once again. Top average rating once again. Top man of the match awards once again. Assists wise, Bryan does lead the way though, of course. And going on to Bryan didn't manage to win another Premier League title with Manchester United, but he is an exceptional talent, of course, and as you can see, good 7.78 average rating in the league this year, 29 assists in all competitions. He is an assist machine. He's got 113 assists. This is league assists. It won't show all of his assists. So just in the league, he's got 113 assists in his career and 88 goals. Really not bad for a player that's not really known for his goal scoring ability, 11 finishing, but long shots, 17. So I bet he bangs quite a few in from long range. Nigel Bryan, still at PSG on 300 grand a week. Bryan is the highest earner, as you can see there. And he's been in France for a long time, and he's won multiple competitions with PSG. But we've not seen a Champions League winner yet from the Bryans. Surely one, I don't think so. I might have missed one, but I'm pretty sure they haven't. We need to see one of these guys win the Champions League. I'm determined to see. You can see Nigel Bryan got the second highest average rating. Mbappe has been the biggest threat to the Ballon d'Or award other than Trevor and Bryan. Ralph Bryan is still at Leipzig. Still improving though, as you can see. I mean, that 20 area reach and jumping reach is just incredible. He's strong as well. As strong as an ox. He's just an insane goalkeeper. 73 caps now for his country. Remember, he did have competition at the start of his international career. Still playing in Germany. And remember, he won the Bundesliga last year, and they've won it twice in a row. So thanks to Ralph Bryan in goal. It's not just down to him, I know. They have gone on to win 2 Bundesliga titles in a row. And this is the squad that they have. You might spot some really top quality players. There's some guys, well, they've got a lot of valuable players here. I'm guessing pretty much everyone is regens now. And there's a few real players, of course, still left. Did Bayern Munich finish second? No, they finished third. Remember, they finished 6th last season. They've really dropped off a cliff, strangely enough. PSG, forgot to look at them. They did win Ligue 1 once again. They are incredible, aren't they? 107 points. They only lost 1 game all season. I've holidayed another year then. We're in the year 2029. And as you can see, Ralph Bryan has gone up to 199 current ability level with his brother Nigel. Bryan and Trevor still on 200. Will we see Ralph and Nigel get to 200 at some point? I hope so. It really doesn't make much difference because there's very little difference between 200 and 199, of course. And it doesn't mean because these two have 200, the other two could, in theory, win the Ballon d'Or, but I just don't think a defender or goalkeeper will win it on FM18. I just don't see it being possible for them, really. Trevor's still scoring goals. Bryan's still getting assists. Ralph's still keeping clean sheets, not as many this year, so we'll have to see how he's got on. Let's look at Trevor first of all. As always, 115 goals now for USA in 126 games. He is prolific. Look prolific up in the dictionary, and there's Trevor Bryan. 32 goals in all competitions this season, 15 assists. He contributes massively. 18 Man of the Match awards as well. Did Chelsea retain their title? They did. 98 points. Wow. Completely murdering Man City. Man United all the way down in 5th place. Even though Bryan got the most assists in the league once again. Of course, Trevor, top goal scorer for about the 7th year in a row, I think. Something like that. It's ridiculous now, isn't it? And the highest average rating as well. He must have won Best Player of the Year in the Premier League for the last few years, surely. In fact, no, he's not won it every year. Trevor Bryan's won it 4 times, and Bryan has won it twice. But yeah, that is insane. In fact, we can probably look at Golden Boot. Golden Glove. Where's Golden? Top goal scorer. There we go. Trevor Bryan, yes, for the last 7 years has won this award. What a player he is. Well, you just got to love him, haven't you? Bryan, Manchester United legend now, I'm sure. Been at the club many, many years, but real difficult time for them this year. And he only scored 1 league goal this year. Really strange drop off for him. He continued with his assists, 23 in all competitions, but only 6 goals in all competitions this season. So I don't know what happened to them. They've still got Luis Enrique in charge, but for whatever reason, they underperformed massively. Look at their fixtures. It was a really bad spell here that did it for them by the looks of it. Second half of the season, well, from February onwards, terrible time. They were knocked out by Barcelona in the Champions League. We'll look at the Champions League now. We do have a couple winners. Remember, Man United and Chelsea were runners-up, so Bryan and Trevor did miss out. But Manchester United beat PSG last year in the Champions League final. Bryan versus Nigel, and this year, Nigel gets it. Well, I assume he got one, as long as he wasn't injured for the campaign. But wow, that's really impressive. We'll have a look at that in a bit more detail in a second after we look at the other players. Ralph Bryan then, he's moved above Nigel on that list, although he's the same current ability as Nigel. And still at Leipzig, have they won another title? 3 in a row? No, Bayern Munich are back to their best. And Leipzig finished second, but on goal difference. Really unlucky for Ralph not to win a third Bundesliga title in a row. Nigel Bryan still at PSG. I mean, they're likely to stay at these clubs for a long time because it's going to cost a hell of a lot of money to get them out. I'd have thought maybe Barcelona and Real Madrid would come in for one of them at some point, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. Nigel still playing brilliantly for PSG in France, and they've won another league title. Oh my, 111 points, they only lost one game and won 37. That is just stupid, but incredible at the same time. Mbappe still ripping it up for PSG, as you can see there. So yeah, let's have a look at that Champions League. Just curious to see what happened. So Manchester United won 1-0 in that final against PSG last season. Brian Bryant with a man of the match performance, and he got the assist for the goal, which we can't see. But yeah, what a brilliant performance from Brian Bryant, beating Nigel, his brother. Mixed emotions for the pair. But it's great to see these head-to-head performances between the Bryan brothers when they do take each other on. I mean, Nigel had a decent game. He got a 7.2. He was actually the second best performing player, I think, for PSG. But they just couldn't get past the Manchester United defence, and Brian Bryant created the goal for Carlos Gonzalez, Spaniard, to win the Champions League for Manchester United. And then this year, complete dominance from PSG in the final, beating Real Madrid 3-0. Nigel Bryan did play. He got a 7.3 rating. He made one key pass, as you can see there. Mbappe didn't score, but he got man of the match as a result of getting 3 assists, a hat-trick of assists in the final. What a brilliant performance. Odegaard playing for Real Madrid. They've also got Donnarumma. Quite possibly will probably be winning Goalkeeper of the Year award now above Ralph, even though Ralph, I reckon, has a better current ability. I might be wrong, but yeah, I reckon Ralph has the best current ability out of any goalkeeper in the world. In fact, let's have a look at Ballon d'Or awards and all that jazz. Trevor Bryan has won twice, and Brian Bryant has won this award twice. Brian Bryant actually managed to win it for a second year in a row last season, beating his brother Trevor to the trophy, even though he got a slightly low average rating once again, but 19 goals and 30 assists was enough to impress the voters. Trevor Bryan did regain his Ballon d'Or trophy though, with 44 goals in that year and 13 assists. Brilliant stuff. Brian Bryant not so good this season though, so will he feature in the top 3 in 2000? He's still got loads of assists but not as many goals, so we'll have to see how that affects his Ballon d'Or chances. Footballer of the Year, it's the same story as you can see there. World Player of the Year is the same. It doesn't really change between those awards. Goalkeeper of the Year, why isn't Ralph featuring? I want Ralph to feature. Instead, it's actually a regen goalkeeper, Leandro, a Brazilian goalkeeper who plays for PSG, and then the Chelsea goalkeeper also featuring. I guess it's because Leipzig just don't have quite the reputation level of the others. They're not. I don't know how they're doing in Champions League. So they're obviously qualifying. They've won 2 Bundesligas in a row. But I think the fact that these guys are playing for teams that have done particularly well with better reputation, they've got more of a chance of winning it than Ralph, even though Ralph probably is the world. In fact, I can look at it using the in-game editor. Let's take a look at the current abilities then. So Leandro has 167, which is way below Ralph. Ralph had 167 years ago. So it does show that you don't need to have 200 current ability or even over 1. You don't even need to be world class to be winning this award. Same with Ballon d'Or things as well. This is the Chelsea goalkeeper, 158. See, very low. It's very good Premier League quality, but it's nowhere near as good as Ralph. Whereas Donnarumma has 175. See, that's a world-class goalkeeper. Ralph is way above these players, but because of the team he plays for, I think he's just missing out. Going back to Ballon d'Or, I just want to look at Mbappe, because he's 30 years old now. He's basically in his prime. And see, he's only 176. It shows the massive difference between them. But Mbappe's still putting in performances good enough to win the Ballon d'Or award a few years ago. So you don't need 200. Like 200 is almost over the top. But I just find it incredible that we've created 4 players that have basically got to 200 current ability. It's amazing. So at the end of the 3rd season of this part 5 then, we're in 2030, And it's the same, really. Trevor Bryan and Brian Bryan both on 200 current ability. Ralph and Nigel both on 199. They might have gone up to 200 at some point in the last year and gone back down again, but I don't know. They might just be fluctuating between them, I guess. Trevor Bryan, 128 goals in 141 games for USA now. Ralph is only one off his century for USA. Have any of the players retired from international duty? Is Trevor Bryan still playing? Is there a way to find? There used to be an easy way to find out if a player had retired from international duty, but I'm not sure anymore. It might say somewhere. In fact, if we look at the USA squad, if he's in it, then he's obviously not retired. Yeah, he's still in it, so he's not retired yet. So that's good. Still playing at the age of 29 with 141 caps. You can see Nigel's apparently the best player with Brian Bryan, then Trevor Bryan. And Ralph is 5th best. Currently 4th in the world rankings, as you can see. They're still doing very, very well. And the World Cup is coming up soon. So we'll have a look in the next season as to how they got on. So let's start, as always, with Trevor. He's worth £93 million, same as his brother. None of them have managed to get over £100 million. But I guess if a team did want to buy Trevor Bryan, they'd have to spend at least £200 million on him, wouldn't they? Which is probably why he's kind of stuck at Chelsea now. He might move when he gets to the age of 33, 34, when he starts to decline. But in his prime, I think it's pretty much impossible to buy him unless he really, really wanted to go. But Chelsea have won their 3rd league title in a row, and they've beaten their own record. 102 points this season. That is ridiculous. Top goal scorer for the 8th season in a row. Best average rating once again. Brian Bryan once again managed to get the most assists though. But Manchester United down in 3rd place. They did improve upon last season, but still a long way behind Chelsea. And Brian Bryan is probably starting to get a little bit annoyed now about finishing 2nd best to Trevor all the time. But he's still producing great performances for Man United nonetheless. 16 goals, 28 assists this season. He's back to his form from the previous year, really. Last year was just a one-off blip with his goals record. Let's move on to Nigel then. Oh, Ralph, sorry. He's next. He is still at Leipzig. Is he going to move? He's still young for a goalkeeper. Like, he might have 10 years left in him. Maybe 7 years left in him at the very top. So he could easily move to another big club if he wanted to. It's just whether someone will stump up the money for him. But then you're not going to spend £100 million on a goalkeeper, I don't think, even these days. Let's see if they did manage to regain the Bundesliga title, though. And no, they didn't. Dortmund have managed to win it for the first time. And Leipzig finished down in 3rd place. Back to where they were a few years ago. So he might start to get a little bit annoyed at being here and not winning the title. He's obviously won 2 already, but I don't think he's won anything since the last Bundesliga, as you can see there. Nigel Bryan is up next. PSG legend, USA legend. What a hero he is at the back. He's a warrior at centre-back, and once again, another phenomenal season. We've not seen any of the players put in bad average rating seasons for a long, long time, you know. It's since his New York City days, ever since he moved to Manchester United and then to PSG. He's just been amazing. It seems a long time ago that he made that £99 million move. That's probably the one big move of his career. It was back then. And of course we saw Trevor Bryan move for £96 million as well. So we did see big money moves, but we've just not seen anything for years and years and years now, because they've just got stuck at, not necessarily stuck, I think they're comfortable where they are. Nigel loves it in France, I'm sure. In Paris, can probably afford to live by the Eiffel Tower by now, all the money he's earned. PSG have retained their Champions League title, so Nigel wins his 2nd Champions League of this save. So Nigel's won 2, Brian Bryan's won 1, and the other 2, even though Trevor's played for Chelsea and scored multiple goals and he's won Ballon d'Ors, he hasn't managed to win the Champions League yet. So he that might tempt him away at some point if he doesn't think Chelsea are ever going to compete. Maybe he'll move to PSG or something like that, because PSG seem to be the team to beat now. Nigel Bryan managed to get a 7.3 performance once again under his belt in a Champions League final. Well done to him for winning another competition. You could argue perhaps he's the worst. He's not the worst. I can't really say any of the brothers are the worst brother, because they've all been incredible, haven't they? I would argue that Trevor has been the best player, but you could argue that Nigel's won the most illustrious awards. I know he's not won a Well, did he win a Premier League title at Manchester United? I can't remember. But he has won a lot of Ligue 1 titles, which obviously doesn't have as high a reputation as the Premier League or La Liga. But he's won 2 Champions League titles, and I kind of think that's what matters most. We're now at the end of our 4th and final season of today's part. Once again, thank you for watching today's video. So this is where we're at. We're exactly where we were last season. 2 brothers on 200 current ability, 2 brothers on 199. Let's not focus too much on that though, because it really is about what they win and their performances over the entire season. Trevor Bryan continues to score goals. Brian Bryan, I think it's his best goal scoring season. Might be wrong, but he did play a hell of a lot of games, as you can see there. Ralph Bryan with 19 clean sheets, and Nigel Bryan, we can't really see much for him in terms of defensive attributes on this view, but you can see won the most games, 52 games won out of 60. That is incredibly impressive. We'll have to see if they've managed to retain their Champions League title again, and we'll also look at Ballon d'Ors and all that stuff as well. So, Trevor, now they're 30 years old. They're coming towards the end of their career, coming towards the end of their prime, I guess, but it doesn't look like they're slowing down yet. Perhaps Trevor and Bryan can stay on that 200 current ability for another season or 2. We'll find out anyway. He's got 146 caps now, 132 goals. He possibly could have retired. I think he has. I think Nigel's retired as well because he's not in the team. Ralph and Brian Bryan are the only 2 left in the squad. And I think Ralph will stay around for a long time because he's a goalkeeper. And he's only 30. So he might be the most patriotic of the brothers as well and stick around playing for USA for the longest period. And Brian Bryan's still around as well on 145, which is 1 less cap than his brother Trevor. We'll have to see if USA decline as a result, but the most important thing to really look at actually is the World Cup. How did they get on? They didn't retain it, that's for sure. Brazil managed to win it, but did USA finish in the top 3? No, they didn't. So they haven't had as successful a World Cup for the second time round with the Bryan brothers at their peak. Let's have a look to see where they finished. They did top their group, finishing ahead of Denmark, Argentina and Japan. That's quite a tough group. Second round, they beat Colombia 2-0, and Trevor Bryan scored another goal. Quarterfinals, they lost against Portugal in extra time, so not such a good competition for them this time round, but still pretty impressive. They've managed to get to 2 semi-finals, haven't they, with the Bryan brothers, and they've also managed to win 1 World Cup. Let's just have a look at the goal scorers. So Trevor Bryan, 2 goals, 3 goals in this competition. Brian Bryan with 1. Certainly not as impressive this time round for Trevor Bryan, but still a decent performance from the Americans. So Trevor Bryan, what has he won in recent years? Let's have a look at his competitions. Oh, they're runners-up. He was runners-up in the Champions League. He's so close. Who were they runners-up to? Manchester United. Brian Bryan versus Trevor Bryan. Chelsea have come out on top in the Premier League more often than not. In fact, they don't think they won the Premier League this year. It was Man City that won it. None of the Bryan brothers managed to win the league this year. But Man United, 93. Chelsea, 93. The top 3, those 3 in particular, are just far and away better than the rest of the competition. Pretty ridiculous, really. Trevor Bryan, top scorer, by the way, for the 9th season in a row, casually. And Brian Bryan, most assists once again. But I feel for Trevor Bryan. Brian Bryan's now managed to win his 2nd Champions League title, which equals Nigel's record. And Trevor and Ralph have missed out entirely. He has won the FA Cup again. I think he's won it, 2 years in a row, as you can see. And he won it back in 2025. But it's not good enough. He wants that Champions League. Will they move? Oh, by the way, USA were runners-up in the Confederations Cup to Mexico, who have won it 3 times in a row, which is very impressive, I must say. Well done to Mexico for that. They beat 3-0. Can't see it, unfortunately. I don't have that loaded. But they've won it 3 times in a row. They beat Brazil 1-0, Germany 2-1, and then USA 3-0. Very impressive stuff. Let's go into Brian Bryan then and see what he's managed to win in the last few years. Their value will start to go down, by the way, as they get older, as you would expect. You can see runners-up so many times in a row with a lot of things. They're in fact runners-up in the Europa League, despite the fact that, they have a Champions League quality team. Runners up in that competition. Lots of variety in the winners as well. Swansea, West Ham, Stoke, Real Madrid and Barcelona have won it in recent years. Maybe because the likes of PSG, Man United, Chelsea with the Bryan brothers are dominating, and they've missed out on a Bryan brother and they're suffering for it. They've not been able to win Champions Leagues. Barcelona have won it twice, to be fair. But yeah, Brian Bryan, after a couple of years of disappointment, wins the Champions League final in style against his brother. Let's have a look at that final then. 2-2. They won on penalties. How unlucky. And Trevor Bryan didn't actually score in the match, which is strange, really. He did score a penalty, as you can see there. Brian Bryan also scored a penalty. He's got slightly worse penalty taken than his brother. But Pietro Pellegrini, who you should know from FM18, who's an absolute star, absolute wizard. Let's have a look at his current ability. 179, 189 potential. Didn't actually reach that, but he's still an exceptional player. He scored 2 goals, and one of them in the 119th minute. But look at this, 120th minute. Minute later, Chelsea saved the day again. And it goes to penalties, but they did miss out, unfortunately, for Trevor Bryan. And Brian Bryan picks up his second Champions League title. So, wow, that's a clash and a half, isn't it? By the way, Brian Bryan is captain of USA, but look who the manager is. Phil Neville is the manager of Manchester United. What a name this is. Oh Young-won is their hot prospect. But yeah, Brian Bryan, captain of Manchester United. Great achievement to become captain, isn't it? And yeah, he's having an enjoyable time in Manchester. Ralph Bryan still at Leipzig, worth £57 million now, earning 190k a week. Did he win the Bundesliga this year? No, they miss out this year. They finished down in third once again. So he's not won much in recent years. Runners up, as you can see there, in the last 3 finals he's played in. He'll want to win something, won't he? He'll surely want to have a go at the Champions League. So maybe a move to a big English club, Chelsea to join Trevor, or Manchester United to join Brian. That would be nice to see. Nigel Bryan, lastly then, 144 caps for USA now. Still playing for PSG. Still winning titles. Yeah, look at that. Absolute dominance from them. Pretty ridiculous, really. Very impressive season once again. 106 points. And, of course, he's managed to win a couple Champions League titles recently. Won the FIFA World Club thingy with PSG. And, yeah, he's won so much, hasn't he? So much. Ballon d'Or then. So it really has been a battle between Trevor and Brian over the years. Remember, Trevor won that first one, pipping Brian to it. Brian then won 2 in a row before Trevor won his second award, beating Brian. Brian then won his third award, but Trevor Bryan didn't even feature. And this was the year that Brian didn't score as many goals. 10 goals, 28 assists in that year. And Lamar finished second, with and PSG Regen finishing third. But Trevor Bryan back to his best in 2030, getting his third Ballon d'Or. So who's going to win the most Ballon d'Ors come the end of their career? Answers on a postcard, or perhaps in the comment section below. Will Nigel or Ralph finally manage to win it? I doubt it, just because they're defenders. Footballer of the Year, same story, really. It's just a carbon copy. And World Player of the Year, the same. So yeah, nothing surprising there. Goalkeeper of the Year, we still haven't seen Ralph appear. I want Ralph. Ralph deserves it. He needs to move somewhere else, I think, to get in it. He's not going to be in the World Team of the Year either as a result, which is just a real shame, because he's the best goalkeeper on the game. 299 current ability. He deserves to be there. This is the all-time best 11, by the way. Trevor Bryan is now up front, with Brian Bryan in the middle and Nigel Bryan at the back. We need the collection of Bryans to feature on it. I really want that to happen. It's a real shame. Let's just look at the reputation. PSG, 5-star reputation, along with Man United, Real Madrid, Bayern. Yeah, Leipzig though, 4.5 stars. So they are up there. They're doing really, really well on this save. Well, thank you for watching part 5 of this quadruplets experiment. It's been a lot of fun so far. Let me know who you think will be the most successful Brian come the end of their careers. Which player will play for the longest? I think it's probably going to be Ralph, and I reckon he will play for USA for the longest amount of time as well and beat all the records. I have a feeling. But we'll find out, I guess, in the next part. I'm going to holiday 4 or 5 seasons in the next part as well, so if you're looking forward to that one. Until next time, enjoy FM18, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you soon.